Hello, hello, my friends. It is Hondo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. We are here for a very special episode to talk about a movie that is near and dear to all of our hearts. Spencer and I especially, this is a movie in our top two between the two of us. It's just behind Last Jedi for me, and it's his number one, so very excited about that. But before we get into any of that or even talk about Sunday's Bloody Mary, may the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day, everybody. Very excited. This is going to be a fun episode. I am pumped. I'm super excited to get into the weeds here about Return of the Jedi. But I am not alone. As I said earlier, I'm joined by Spencer the Mando Simpson.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Yeah, it was... I remember, Jared, you called me on like a Monday or something and just threw it out there like, hey, it's going to be in theaters. And I remember being super excited for that because of how long this movie has been my very favorite of the Star Wars franchise. And to see it on the big screen for the first time was just really cool. It was a really cool experience. And I'm super glad that we are here to talk about it with some more friends.
Including a friend who was with us for that screening, Mr. Kason Breon.
What is up? Happy Star Wars Day, everybody. Peep the new name check on here. Officially yes. Not new anymore.
Yes, we decided, Spencer, I don't think Connor was here for the Mando review either. When we had Goose from Triad of the Force, we decided that we can officially no longer say that Kason is new here because he has covered an entire season of television with us now. So he's officially, he's not a shiny anymore, to quote Captain Rex.
Right.
But it is not just the three of us. Of course, it is the Italian stallion, the one-eyed knight, the Jedi survivor himself, Cal Kestis Stan, numero uno, Connor Chiquiti.
What's up, everyone? Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with us all. I'm really excited to talk Return of the Jedi because, I've never really talked at length my relationship with this movie before.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is a really personal movie for me. I joke all the time about Star Wars makes me cry. There is just something in the water when it comes to Star Wars that makes me weep. It just gets me in a very specific place that makes me incredibly emotional. And I think Return of the Jedi is the movie that makes me cry the most. And granted, maybe it was the whole theater experience. But there's even moments that when I was bartending and this movie would be on TNT with commercial breaks, that while I was dealing with a shit ton of annoying people pouring drinks, I'm looking over and I'm seeing Vader save Luke, and I got one thug tear pouring slowly into a Budweiser. But speaking of slanging drinks, we have a word from our lovely sponsors over at Sunday's Bloody Mary, and you guys know the drill by now. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy. They have their 3-time award-winning spicy mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice isn't your thing. And if you want to get your freak on and garnish those bad boys up, you can get their pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus, as well as some rim salt to spice up your Bloody Mary, and get your dress on as well with some cute tomato-themed merch. Get on over to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout, and get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. with that said, Spencer, I am just going to immediately throw to you. We're going to start by talking about the theater experience. How was it, man? I was already planning. Like I didn't to set up and kind of like throw back to the story you started earlier. I knew Jedi was coming back to the theaters. It was. I know like that beautiful poster. It's part of our thumbnail for this video. That they released for the Return of the Jedi re-release at Star Wars Celebration. And I didn't see what the date was on it. I didn't know it had a date on it. I just saw the art. I didn't know it was coming at the end of April. I didn't know how close it was to time of release. So whenever I saw on Twitter, it was actually a listener and friend of All Star Wars podcast, I believe Brian Fantasy, tweeted something to the effect of, "Got my tickets for Return to the Jedi next weekend." I look at my phone, I go, "Tickets for what? When?" And then immediately started texting you and Kaysen and my mutual friend Dave. We were like, "Hey, like Jedi's coming back to theaters. You want to come?" And while I was getting a hold of them, I was like, "I need to get a hold of Spencer. Like, I know, coming out all the way out to the city is going to be kind of a pain in the ass, especially for the later show. That would be the easiest for everybody, but Spencer." But you came all the way out, and I know it's your favorite movie, so I'll give you the floor on the experience.
Yeah. So I was talking to you, Jared, on the phone whenever you called and pitched me this idea, how I was like gonna spend some time trying to actively forget everything I can about this movie, just in the hope that like I could go into the theater with as fresh of a slate, as clean of a slate as I can, just to try and put myself in the shoes of somebody going to see this movie in the theater on the big screen for the very first time. And that exercise was unsuccessful. I have not broken the scientific psychological paradigm that is, the brain cannot, willfully forget something. You can't purge it from your memory. You can try not to think about it, but you can't forget it entirely. So going in, like, I still knew what was going to happen. I still knew like the lines of dialogue that were coming up, and what was going to happen next, and the music and the swelling of the score and everything. It was still all very familiar to me. It's the same as I remember and loved from growing up. But I remember saying outside the theater, you were like, "Hey, I think we're going to do like a recap kind of episode, just what your thoughts were seeing it on the big screen." I remember saying at the time, I don't know that I have anything like really profound to say. It was just that I haven't given this movie my complete undivided attention from start to finish in probably 15 years. And so that alone, I noticed things that I hadn't noticed before. Like, there were a lot of times, Jared, when like you and I were sitting next to each other, and we'd like lean over and be like, "Did you see that? Like, did you notice like such and such's face in the background? Like what they're doing in the background?" And
the best, of course.
Yeah,
I will say, and you noticed this before I did. I did not know to look for it until listening to an episode of Force Center relatively recently, when Joseph Scrimshaw pointed out that whenever Han and Leia get caught in Jabba's palace, whenever Leia defrosts Han, that Bib Fortuna is cheesing so deliciously hard directly behind Jabba that he's like right over Jabba's shoulder, just going like that. Yeah. Just these wild faces in the background for no reason. And I hadn't had a chance to watch Jedi like in full since I had heard that, so I was so excited. I forgot about it until I got on the big screen. Went, "Oh, there's Bib making fucking faces," and we both were laughing at how we never noticed before. It's either Paplu or Chief Chirpa is like just waving around the business end of Luke's lightsaber. I never noticed or like that one of the Ewoks during the Battle of Endor just picks up an E11, and there's just a teddy bear with a fucking burner like that. I never noticed that there was an Ewok with a blaster, which is way funnier, and there should have been more of them with guns. But yeah, no, cutting in on what you're saying, but no,
no.
After
I
all
couldn't.
these years, yeah, like
I couldn't remember the exact example, so thank you for chiming in. But I think the two things that stood out to me most, explicitly were, first of all, the special effects. Like, you could tell they're very old school, but for old school, they're still really good. Like, you can tell if you watch this movie completely clean, like if you managed to make it to your 20s and you had never seen Return of the Jedi before, you could tell like this is an old school movie, but
you can tell it's 40 years
like,
old.
doggone it. Like, it stood the test of time. Like, nothing looks really clunky. Like, I noticed seeing it that large on the screen, and again with my undivided attention, like I could tell that like a lot of the ships are kind of like clip arted in there, like you can tell that it's like it's like a cutout that is stop motion animated along
a lot
the
of matte
screen.
paintings.
Yeah. So it's like that. You can tell that it's a little dated, but it still looks really good. Like the fact that it took my undivided attention on the big screen to be like, wow, this isn't as clean as I remember, and yet it still has stood the test of time. The special effects still look really good. Like, especially, I was thinking, like, as I'm going through, because I'm like, this is before even with the special edition remakes, like this is before CGI. Like, a lot of this stuff, like the explosions especially, I spent a solid 2 minutes trying to figure out just in my own brain how they made the explosion of Jabba's sail barge look that good. And
I don't know if that's a special edition change. I can't remember. I know the Return of the Jedi has it's weird when it comes to like special edition stuff, because like a lot of people talk about the special editions as kind of this like blanket term for like all of the changes that George has made over the course of the last 50 years. And like every single version of these movies that came out post 97 is different. Namely, Taylor and I decided to watch A New Hope 2 days before Return of the Jedi, and then we tried to watch Empire the next day. Like the 2011 like Obi-Wan screech, like that's a product of the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray re-release in 2011 when Obi-Wan goes to scare the Tuskens away, and it turns into this like horrifying like scream into the void. So yeah, no, I have a harder time fighting like the changes to Jedi. Obviously, there are the big ones. Vader's no, Anakin on the Force Ghost, and
dude, I'm not gonna lie.
And the extra planets in the victory celebration.
Yeah. And like most of that stuff I don't mind. I personally have never liked the move to put Hayden at the end. Like the special, and like you said, like it's not just like there's one special edition. It's like there have been incremental changes along the way.
Yeah.
And the VHS tape that I grew up on was a special edition VHS tape, but it still had what's it? Is it
Sebastian Shaw?
Sebastian Shaw. That's it. It still had him at the end, and that, like, I always liked that better. I know there's like it was the last time he was truly Anakin Skywalker, but like I don't know that that's necessarily true. Like he may not have gone all the, like the needle may not have gone all the way back over to Anakin Skywalker light side, but like he recovers a version of himself that is Anakin Skywalker by the time he dies.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if like in the alternate universe reality where like Anakin shows up at the end and it's Hayden, like the version we don't see on screen, Luke's probably like, who the heck is that? Like, I don't recognize that guy. And he might have like intuited that it was his father as a younger man, but like Obi-Wan is old, Yoda is old, and to me it always just like it felt much more of like the ancestors watching, right? Like the lineage that I come from that is preserved in the Force is like the version that I know, the version that I'm familiar with. And like you can make arguments for like the manifestation of consciousness after death with the Force, and like could they appear as their younger selves if they wanted to? Who knows? Like, we've never seen an example of that I know of.
Well, I was actually going to say that's like stuff like that I love that Return of the Jedi and a lot of George's special edition changes and just weird choices across all of Star Wars typically beget fascinating stories to justify those choices.
Yeah.
And Shadow of the Sith, whenever Anakin's ghost appears to Luke, he's phasing back and forth between Sebastian Shaw and Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah,
I need to reread that passage.
Yeah. It took me a little bit to realize that's what they were doing as well. When they said like he was starting to like change, I was like, oh, is he looking all mangled like he did like when the helmet came off? I'm like, oh no, it's like because we know like Sebastian Shaw played Anakin without his mask on, we now know that like old man Anakin Skywalker is Sebastian Shaw in the same way old man Ewan McGregor is Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can go. I don't disagree with you. I do prefer Hayden. But that especially I prefer Hayden now more because of the knowledge that like his spirit is in flux. And in that moment he appeared as he did at the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, but like even in that flux, I'm like all the more reason for him to show up. Like it's like 10 minutes ago, or like for the sake of argument, 2 hours ago, this was Sebastian Shaw. And like if as he's showing back up on the scene to let his son know, like, it's okay, like you did good. Like you pulled me back to the light in the moment when it truly mattered and the galaxy is better for it. I'm here. Like it makes more sense to me that it be Sebastian. And it's a cool thought process that like you can maybe like phase between like the ages of yourself. That's a different conversation, and I'm happy to hear Connor and Kaysen's thoughts on it. But to me, just like thematically, in terms of like a plot symmetry, it makes the most sense. Like the first time that Luke sees him as a Force ghost is the version of him, like the only version of his father that he knew in real life.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I do think there is potential for that because, I mean, it might be stupid, but like when Luke projects himself across the galaxy, he appears as like a younger, more cleaned up version of himself. It seems like.
Yeah.
So like as a Force ghost, you could probably do the same thing because that's almost what that was.
Yeah, he's not as gray, and the argument could be made that he appears in that way because of who his audience is. Like he's appearing to Ben, and chances are pretty good that the last time Ben saw him, he still had like dark hair, dark beard, like relatively well trimmed, instead of being kind of unkempt and gray. He appeared to Ben as the version of himself that Ben knew personally. Right. So it's all personal choice. I don't think there's that it's not something that I'm willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater for. But like me personally, I would have preferred to see Sebastian at the end. And that being said, I was kind of disappointed. And I don't even know if you can find a version of this anymore outside of like a 40-year-old VHS tape. But I was really, really hoping that they would show the theatrical cut for the 40th anniversary, because I've never seen it. I've only ever seen the special editions. And so like it didn't take me long to get past that disappointment and be like, I'm still seeing Return of the Jedi on the big screen, and that's really awesome. But I really for a 40th anniversary screening, I really, really wanted to see what it looked like in the theaters in May 1983 instead of, the version we got 20 years after that slowly has matriculated its content and clarified up a little bit. But to my other main point, my main observation, I like with it my full attention. Like, I haven't laughed out loud at that movie in a long time. And like there's just no character in Star Wars, and there aren't many characters in all of cinema quite like Han Solo. Like he like Harrison Ford is incredible. Han Solo is an incredibly written character, especially by now they kind of honed in on who Han is and like what kind of things he says. And just like his little sarcastic quips and his facial expression, like the whole thing. I'm just like, man, I love Han Solo in this movie. He's so good. But
Han's great in this. This is Han's funniest movie, like by far.
By far,
You know,
yeah.
I used to live here. You're gonna die here, you know.
Convenient. Yeah. And my last observation was during the space battle at the end of the movie. Star Wars has kind of teetered back and forth at how good it is at letting the audience be smart enough to know what people are saying in alien languages. And like even at the beginning of the movie in Jabba's palace, like they only subtitle whenever it's essential to the plot that you know what he's saying.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the movie in the space battle, like as Lando and Nia Nub are talking, and he's like, and well, how can they be jamming us if and it's like even though you don't know what Nia Nub said, you still know what he said. And like there's a way to do that makes sense conversationally, and there's a way to not do that. And I think the best ironic example of that is Guardians of the Galaxy, like when Rocket and Groot are having their argument, and it's like, I am Groot. I know that what you just said is true, and I'm going to say it out word for word for the sake of the audience. And I am Groot. Yeah, but that's not the case, because what you just said, which I'm going to also spell out word for the audience, is wrong because of this. I am Groot. Okay, fine. We're going to go do exactly what you just said word for word. And it's just like, come on now. Like, I think that was intentionally tongue-in-cheek, making fun of like the one-sided aliens versus English language barrier thing for the sake of the audience. But Star Wars is
the
really
one-sided telephone call, if you will.
Right. Star Wars is really inconsistent on how much effort they put into writing the dialogue so that it sounds like a normal conversation, even though you only get one side of it. And I thought that came through really strongly in the final battle with Lando and Nia Nub. I think Nia Nub does get some subtitled lines, but they're very few and far between. And you just like the audience is left to intuit what is being said, and it's not a challenge to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The one-sided conversations with Nia Num are sincerely funny, as much as I like to talk shit about Nia Num. I do love the, what do you mean they're jamming us? Oh, yeah, it's great. Kaysen, what was seeing Return of the Jedi on a big screen like? How did it change your experience with the movie?
It was super cool for me because I've only ever seen the original 6 on like a TV screen. Because I guess when I was a kid, I just didn't really I wasn't as much into Star Wars as I eventually got. So I didn't see Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith in theaters. But yeah, getting to see, especially Return of the Jedi, because it's one of my favorites. I think it's like in my top 3.
Man, of
yeah,
culture.
I think it's my 3rd. Yeah, like seeing like how everybody culminates in Jabba's palace all at the same time. I forgot how well put together that is, where it's like not like they just bombard the place, but it's like, okay, Lando's already here.
It's
Luke
funny
has been
you say
trying to
that.
contact him about his car's extended warranty. And Leia's like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to fucking do it. And she brings Chewie in as like a prisoner. And then she's like, psych, I'm saving my boyfriend.
It's funny you say that because those are one of those like long running Star Wars jokes, like the whole like what in the actual fuck was Luke's plan?
Right.
Because like Lando's under deep cover for what feels like months. They
Yeah,
send in
dude.
the droids on their own, followed by Leia and Chewie, who are both still in deep
Cosplaying.
cover, who are both under deep cover still. They get captured, and then Luke shows up. And I've always looked at it as like Lando scoping the place out. And they send the droids again for additional intel and to sneak Luke's weapon in case things go sideways. And then
Right.
Luke like gives Jabba his first chance to let this happen bloodlessly. Give us Captain Solo, and then we'll work something out. You'll get your payday from the Rebel Alliance. Make sure you get your money, but like we need him back. That's our friend, and
Right.
we need him. Well, that doesn't work. Okay, we're gonna send Leia and Chewie in, and then we're gonna maybe try to attempt a prison break because they can handle that. It goes
Right.
sideways. Leia's been captured. Luke doesn't hear from Leia. Okay, now it's time to bring in the big guns. Jabba, this is your last chance. Please just give us Han and let us go. Nope. All right, here I go cutting down your entire force. Like I've always thought of it as like Luke in a very Jedi way, giving Jabba every single opportunity until the very end to just let this happen quietly. And
You see that guy in the green behind you? Give it a couple years. He's gonna be sitting there. I promise you that.
I'll play it.
Spoilers for Book of Boba Fett. My
Yeah,
bad.
you keep talking. Friend of the show, and movie trivia schmodown royalty, Kevin the Smasher Smets, made a really cool edit. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
one.
that. Yeah,
Here, I will.
I know
you,
of
I was about to
this.
mention it actually.
you keep talking, Case, and I'll get it set up for the screen share.
Yeah, I mean, just like seeing it on the big screen was super cool. It's like similar to you guys. Like, it's not as clean as I remembered it being because like it's on the big screen and you can kind of see some of the like stop motion and claymation, whatever. Oh yeah, this.
Here, hold on. Let me know if people can hear it.
Yeah,
Yep.
post credit scene for Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hot. Anyway, but yeah, and I do understand that. It doesn't look necessarily as clean, but I also like. I think that Empire Strikes Back is the movie visual effects wise that aged the best.
Yeah.
And and I only learned this recently whenever I was on the Bombad cast with Alden talking about 40 Years of Return of the Jedi.
It's one.
That's one. We got to watch how many times we say his name before he Beetlejuices into the room. But Return of the Jedi had a huge budget cut, which I did not know. They like slashed the budget coming off of Empire. And Return of the Jedi also has the most reused shots and assets. And watching the movie knowing that, I'm like, you know what? They do show a lot of Lambda class shuttles in this movie. A lot of this movie happens around Lambda class shuttles. And I never noticed that until like it was mentioned, like, yeah, they had to reuse shots from the other movies and like a lot of like just TIE fighters and Star Destroyer type things. But I was like, yeah, that makes sense that they would commit to this one new asset in terms of the Imperial shuttle, and then just everybody moves from point A to point B via Lambda class shuttle by the second act. By the second act, from the beginning of the movie, Vader takes a Lambda, Sidious takes a Lambda, the Rebels take a Lambda, and then Luke takes a Lambda back to Endor. Like every big scene involves this one specific type of ship. And it never occurred to me to notice that until it was made aware to me that this is the one with the most like repurposed shots. And
Don't forget Vader taking the Lambda from the command ship to Endor.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah.
And then Vader taking the Lambda with Luke from Endor back to the Death Star.
And it's probably off screen, but it's implied Vader took a Lambda from the Executor to the Death Star, back to the Executor, and then down to Endor. Those Lambda class shuttles, those are gas guzzlers. They are. I don't know. Maybe they're not, and that's why they're taking so many. And they're like, let's leave the TIE fighters be for now. But yeah, Connor, I didn't realize you got to see the movie this weekend. Otherwise, I would have been all up in your business, seeing if you wanted to do this episode.
So I got to talk about like just growing up with Return of the Jedi first.
Yes.
So Return of the Jedi for the longest time as a kid for me was my favorite Star Wars movie. And I don't and like as a kid, I don't know if this was the same for you guys, but I almost always went to the action scenes. I always skipped the non-action scenes because it was never exciting to me as a kid. So I remember watching the Great Pit of Carcoon fight like religiously on repeat. And then I kind of remember also watching the Vader and Luke fight on the second Death Star a decent amount, but like the Great Pit of Carcoon was like the action sequence I like always watched as a kid and basically remember by heart. And then just playing through the movie through Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga was also just like another really cool moment because like Lego Star Wars really informed me a lot of Star Wars in some weird, like not backwards, like weird, like roundabout type way.
Yeah.
Through experience in it. And so those are pretty much my only like quote unquote memories of Return of the Jedi for the longest time. And so just being able to see it in theaters this past weekend was really cool. Like really cool. And a really funny moment was about 2 seats over, there was a father and his kid. And when it got to the scene, on Dagobah, where it's with Yoda and Luke, I hear that I barely heard it, but I heard the kid go, "Is that baby Yoda?" and then I heard the dad say, "No, that's the actual Yoda."
That's Yoda. That is original recipe Yoda.
That's deathbed Yoda, baby.
No.
It was really cool seeing it in theaters. It was weird too because there was this edit on YouTube where it just like it would sometimes like wow, I can't speak today. Over the past few years or so, I really got into space battles, especially Endor. Like there was just something about like just like how it was framed and constructed that I was just like, yeah, this is probably my favorite space battle just in the films. And so there was this one YouTube cut where it's like it's just the space battle that I've watched so many times that whenever it cut back,
cool. It's just like it is just like the Battle of Endor in uninterrupted. That's cool.
Yeah, uninterrupted. That whenever it would cut back to the ground battle in the movie, I'm like, wait, that's not supposed to happen, right? And I'm like, oh wait, no, this is the actual movie. I'm not watching some like space battle cut. But like it made me long for the space battle even more.
It's funny you say that because I'm the opposite. I spend the entire time waiting for them to get back to Luke and Vader. Like they like as important and engaging as like the ground battle and the space battle are. Like, you know, it's not like everybody watching this show hasn't seen this shirt a trillion times, but Kind of, it's my favorite part of the movie. Not for lightsaber going burr purposes, as well as just the sheer emotionality of that scene and knowing where it's heading. So like every time I watch the movie, especially again, the way that over the past few years I've consumed most of my Star Wars is on TNT with commercial breaks. That like I'm just chomping at the bit the entire time, especially when it would like go to commercial. Whenever Luke just first like doo-doo, and like
They
goes to
clash
swing on the
blades.
Emperor,
Yep.
they clash and you get that happy Honda days, and I'm like, motherfucker, go back to the fight.
Yeah.
But
And there's like two moments in Return of the Jedi that like, okay, obviously Yoda's death scene, I can't keep it together. I just can't.
so
That shit kills me every time.
I'm interrupting you again just with another funny story, and I'm gonna invoke a second that guy. So I learned thanks to Alden and Kelly Knox last week that in the shots where Luke and where Yoda is like on his way out, shots that were not in the movie but were photographed for press stuff. Like, let me rephrase it. You can't see it in the movie, but it was happening. Luke is holding Yoda's hand,
Oh,
Hmm.
well,
and
that hurts.
well, I didn't know about that until a week ago when you guys were watching this live on the Bombadcast. You can watch me burst into tears live on camera. Like it was instantaneous. Like Alden said that, and I just like and he pointed it out. He just saw my face change, and I just started crying, and then hunted it down because Kelly Knox tweeted it. Shouts out Kelly Knox, and I was like, just running through her Twitter, and I found it and started crying again. And when we were watching the movie,
Don't like that.
it's really beautiful, and it's amazing, and fuck. But I remember like in the movie again. I don't know if it was because I had like the knowledge of Mark holding the puppet's hand in mind at that moment, because I always get a little verklempt when Yoda passes. But I don't. Oh, that was the worst one. That is the hardest I've cried at that scene before. And again, yeah, is it possibly pathetic that I can tell you the intensity with which I typically cry during this movie? Maybe. Am I going to cry every time I watch this movie? Damn right. Can't not. Also, just piggybacking on another thing Connor said, and then I'll let you take back over. Or you know what? No, I'm going to hold that back. You keep talking, Connor, because I have a question I want to ask the forum here.
No, but just another scene that like I never really remember much as a kid, but like, and it's only been like recently, as in like the last few months, I think. The someone who loves you scene when Leia takes off the helmet. I can't help but the waterworks come out every time.
That's so cute that makes you cry, Connor.
I don't
that is
know
so
why.
cute. That is adorable. Oh my god.
Like, I don't know what it is. Just the one time I watched that scene, like when I was just watching either some compilation or just like actually Return the Jedi, just like something gave in me. Like when that scene happened, I'm like, oh wow, this is really this is getting me for some reason, and I don't know why. It's probably but you know what? It's honestly probably because I've really just started to really like Leia more as a character ever since reading the comics.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's why. But no, Return of the Jedi in theaters was super cool. I just the one special edition change that I need to be axed from that entire movie is the Vader no. That took me out of that scene so bad.
We're gonna circle back to that. We talked about that a lot on Bombadcast. Vader saying no is my favorite change George ever made. Second only to like having Anakin be the Force or Hayden be the Force ghost, which is controversial as well. But Vader saying no as the years have gone on has become more and more affecting to me. And we could talk about that. To talk through the Vader no thing now. The reason I love it and the big diatribe I went on the Bombad cast was that for me, I know a lot of other people share this opinion, and I didn't know other people thought it until I was on Star Wars Twitter and things like that. I've always interpreted this movie in such a way that the moment Anakin Skywalker starts to wake back up is when he speaks with Luke on that like landing pad scaffolding catwalk area. And that I think Vader starts to have a reality check when he first looks at Luke's lightsaber. And that when he first spoke to Luke about Anakin Skywalker, Luke had such venom in his voice because he thought he was looking at the man who killed his father. And even though Luke didn't know his father, he had such a reverence and love and respect for him that was immediately tarnished when he learned the true identity of his father. And the next time Vader sees him, after in a fun reversal, because obviously Luke looks down at Vader and sees that Vader's right hand is also cybernetic. And Luke has that great moment where he's like, I'm becoming just like you. I need to stop. I need to reel it back. I think Vader, when he looks at Luke's new lightsaber, has a moment where it clicks for him that the last time he saw him, he was wielding his old sword. He was carrying one of the last vestiges of Anakin Skywalker. And now when he looks at Luke Skywalker, now when he looks at his son, his progeny, he's seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. He's looking at a reflection of Obi-Wan. And, if you want to lean into that whole headcanon that Luke has Qui-Gon's Kyber crystal in there, he's looking at the embodiment of his two, like his surrogate father and his brother, whom he has so profoundly failed at this point. Now, obviously, Luke's, we don't know about the Qui-Gon crystal for sure, and we're probably going to see how Luke gets his own Kyber crystal in the comics, whatever. Even then, that green, I don't think Luke can look at it and not see Qui-Gon and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And immediately be flashed back to even more people he's failed. And then looking at the hand that he took from Luke and starts to realize, I did to you what Dooku did to me. And then now jumping forward a little bit, when he's fighting Luke, that Vader is not having an internal moment where he goes, you're doing to me what you did to Dooku. We're all a part of this like violent, awful cycle. And that moment where Vader just all by himself, you can't see his face, you can't see anything, but it's all in his body language, the way he's gazing longingly out into the forest. That is where Anakin is starting to wake up.
I think you made an interesting point. Like he looks at Luke's new lightsaber and he's like, the last time we met, you were using a saber that came from me, and now you are using a saber that's clearly inspired by Obi-Wan. And I think you're right. I think like that's when Anakin starts to like wake up inside Vader, and the needle starts to tip back toward the light side. I think maybe there's also a part of him that's like, in that moment he realized, like you're saying, like all these people that I've failed. And I think in that moment he's also realizing that like Obi-Wan has always been more of a father to you than I have. And he's
exactly.
like, you are taking after him so much now that like your new lightsaber is a construction and a design based on him, not me. And like, even like we can have the debate on whether or not Anakin sees himself, or Vader sees himself as a father to Luke in anything other than biology. But Like I think he sees his son. Like he very very clearly knows. Like Luke gave himself up to come and see me. Like
To try
whether
and save him.
right, to try and save him. And so he's looking. He's just like, like a father who realizes that they have nothing to show for their role as a father. And you can debate like there's more to fatherhood than biology, and I completely agree. And I think Vader is realizing in that moment, like Obi-Wan has been more of a father to you than I have, and like I think he regrets that, like in a way. Like he's like, you're my kid. I know what the Emperor plans to do with you. And
Exactly.
yeah,
100%. And into like put like not necessarily push back, but to add on to that, Vader does have one thing he can show for his fatherhood and the force he's been in his life, no pun intended. And you know what it is? A literal physical manifestation of him passing down his trauma by cutting off Luke's hand,
yeah,
by maiming Luke the same way he was maimed by Dooku.
yeah. That's
Like,
the only thing. That's the only thing he has to show. And like I'm sure that theme, as you dig deeper into it, has a lot of it resonates with a lot of modern American audiences. This idea of generational baggage, and
yes.
it could be domestic abuse, it could be alcoholism, you name it. There's an element of that generational baggage that you're talking about. Like I'm going to do it to you because that's what was done to me. And honestly, I think a lot of people in that cycle don't even realize that's what they're doing or why they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is what I know. And you're right. Just like Luke has that moment where he sees his hand and he's like I am becoming what my father was made to be. You're right. I think Vader also sees like, I have made my son, or I've wounded my son in the exact same ways that I've been wounded, and it stops now. Like it stops with me.
And
And
that,
I
and yeah, you say you finish what you were saying.
No, that's it. That's it.
Because I wanted to circle it back to the no. That's why I love the no. That is why I love that act of defiance. Because in many ways, you can look at the classic George, like the Lucasinian poetry of what is Vader's first big moment, locked in that suit forever. This lamenting, defeated, hopeless no. When he realizes that even that after everything he's done, he's still lost the love of his life, and in his mind, his child. And now, after 20 odd years of murder, destruction, mayhem, violence, annihilation,
Abuse.
abuse,
Mhm.
Vader abusing like not even just Luke, not even just fucking Leia. Like, look at the Inquisitorius. Like look at this like horrifying fucking boy band of broken Jedi. That's all they are. They're shattered. I will forever be haunted by in Fallen Order that afraid avenge us from Trilla before Vader kills her. I'll always be haunted by that moment. So you see what Vader, and not to take agency away from Anakin, he made decisions, he made choices. It adds to the tragedy, but he was manipulated, he was lied, he was conned. So seeing him here at the end of all things, after everything we just said being considered, looking down at Luke, watching Sidious just dispose of Luke, seeing that Sidious thinks he can get away with this, that he can do to Vader what he did to Tyrannus, expect Vader to just go with it because Luke was a bigger man than Anakin Skywalker ever was, and said, no, I'm not going to murder him in cold blood because I have an insane amount of resentment for him and because you want me to, and you're giving me permission to murder this defenseless person. He's seeing Luke, who's done everything right that Vader couldn't. He's resisted the pull. He is, even in that moment where he succumbs to the dark side, he immediately pulls back in a way that he could not. And then Vader quietly to himself, no. And it's almost like he is giving himself permission to rebel, knowing this is going to kill him. Like, I don't even think you needed like the current canon comics to say that Vader was able to, put 2 and 2 together and go, yeah, I am in a walking iron lung and I'm about to go attack a guy who is shooting like torrents of lightning so powerful that it deformed him permanently. It's probably going to shut off my equipment. Like I know I'm going to die doing this. But now with like the added benefit of like the canon comics, Sidious constantly is threatening Vader with like, I can kill you with a thought. Like you're this all powerful Jedi killer. I can kill you in an instant because you are vulnerable to the one thing I am the most powerful with. Please try me, little Annie. So you see Vader have that moment of no, I'm not going to let this happen. I am done. I am no longer your servant. You will let go of my son. And then he says no to Sidious. And then he
I think
bellows
it's the first no that kills me. That's
and
what
I understand that. And I understand why people don't like
the
it.
base of it, the echo, it just takes me out. The second one, not that bad. First one, just
no. I get why people don't like it. No. I get why people don't like it.
Why hasn't Scotty done? Oh my god!
We talked about it in the theater. Taylor, and here's the thing. I went on this whole same diatribe on Bombadcast, and I had a moment where I was unable to.
Jared, we might make something terrible with that if we go through with
well,
it.
Taylor, as I'm like starting to like well up with tears because like I kind of primed myself for the whole like no being like this powerful moment, and at this point I'm just and then Taylor kind of quietly went no in the Connor voice, and I was like no, not now, no. And then as like Vader threw the Emperor down the reactor shaft, and I'm just fully sobbing, like, and shouts out to Spencer for playing it so cool and not calling attention to the fact that I was weeping for so much of the third act of that movie.
Dude, I've known you long enough now. I wasn't surprised. I was just like,
also just another
so used to it. And Taylor's trying so nice. She said she is such a like. Don't get it twisted. Taylor is a huge Star Wars fan. She has a normal level of dedication to this franchise. That I wish I could be a normal person about, but I just physically can't. So every time like we watch a movie or watch Star Wars and I get emotionally affected, she has this like very tender, it's okay, it's all right. She had done that when Yoda passed away earlier in the movie, and it's so sweet, and I love her so much. However, when Anakin killed the Emperor, she had a completely different tone. And I
can imagine it right now.
It was so funny because I'm just sobbing because it's Anakin Skywalker back from the dead, saving his son. Like, no, you will not destroy another member of my family. Throws him down the reactor shaft, and Taylor puts her arm around me and goes, "Honey, it's okay. The Emperor survived." What? Yeah, she said, don't worry, he'll be back. And I was like, that's not why I'm crying right now. Just like
that's
just tears going into my icy, tears going into the popcorn.
Crying in the Club RN.
Crying on the Death Star.
Also, just a really small moment that I don't know what it was. I don't know how it took me watching the movie in the theater for this to finally click. But when during their duel, when Vader says Obi-Wan has taught you well, I don't know why, but I was like, wait, why the fuck doesn't he know about Yoda? Oh, that's why. Because Yoda was so good at playing hide and seek.
I know. I also love the fact that none of them know that Yoda is teaching him. I really do. Spencer.
Wasn't there some legend story where once Yoda died, Palpatine found out through the Force and like celebrated. That sounded so fucking stupid.
That sounds real. I don't mind that. I like it a little bit. It gives Palpatine a moment where he thinks he's on the precipice of destroying the Rebel Alliance. That like he also goes, "Did Yoda just fucking die?" I didn't even know he was on the board.
Just like
Oh
that.
my God.
Yeah, just like that. That Homelander meme where he's like,
Yeah, exactly the Homelander meme.
Dude, like, he starts off and he's like, okay, yeah, this is good. All right.
It's the reverse of Obi-Wan when he feels Alderaan being destroyed.
Yeah.
Where Obi-Wan's like, oh man, like so many people just died. Where like Palpatine is just met with this like instantaneous rush of relief that he didn't know he needed. You go, oh my God, he was alive. Oh, thank God he's dead. He almost kicked my ass. But no, I understand why a lot of people don't like the no. And like, Hayden on the Force Ghost, the people who love it, love it. The people who don't. And I understand why people don't love it. And Spencer, your critique of it is perfectly valid. But like Anakin reclaiming his agency, reclaiming his humanity in that way has always deeply affected me. And I think the no punctuates it and makes it more defiant. And that is why I love the no. I know a lot of people don't care for it, and I get why. Like again, like it's very like let the helmet act. We get from everybody between Anthony Daniels all the way up to Pedro Pascal. Like we have this long line of Star Wars characters who have incredible actors who could perform simply with their voice. Is James Earl Jones the king of that pantheon? You're goddamn right. But like hearing that defiant no, I love it. And
no.
No, I guess I'll just fucking kill myself. As he throws him
Nar.
Yeet. I can't leave you here. I've got to save you. Dope. Anyway,
this needs to happen now. I need to do a voiceover of all Vader's lines.
We're gonna take your voice, put it through a Vader voice changer, so like it still maintains like that Connor texture, but with the Darth Vader, Obi-Wan was thought as you do voice filter. But anyway, we've all kind of like referenced stuff like this, but this is the question I've been most looking forward to asking. What, if any, scene, watching it on the big screen, surrounded by friends, what are you laughing at?
Kaysen knows.
Lining up a shot again.
He knows.
Oh, I thought I did something. I could see you playing pool, asshole, but
He knows. I knew that Kaysen would catch that. He knows. He always knows.
We can all tell you're playing pool, Spencer. I'm
just the only one that's giggling at it.
I just thought I did it. I thought I did it.
I'm just on a mad
Jared
win
Gaff
streak
and-
right now.
Uh-huh.
I got to keep it rolling.
Oh, I feel you. I've been
While the
addicted to
chops
Marvel
is hot.
Snap, and I haven't lost in a week, and I feel like a god. What scene, if any, just truly hit different on the big screen? Like
I know there's a few, but I just can't think of them.
okay.
I know that happened for me.
Seeing the barge scene, honestly, for me on the big screen was super cool.
Dude, that was among the things I was the most excited for.
Yeah.
I know I've said this before. I will say it again. I'll say it till the day I die. There are certain scenes, like action scenes, not like big climactic moments, but just action moments that define Star Wars for me, and like that feel of like adventure and excitement. And the two big
Jedi
ones.
craves not these things, Jared.
Oh,
Can I say mine really quickly before I forget it? So like, okay, the Rancor scene, because like,
okay,
Jedi Survivor, like, if you know, you know. But also, and it wasn't really the scene; it was just a moment that I never picked up on until the theater. It's the scene where Jabba's getting ready to like throw them all in the pit of Carcoon. They're all like looking down at the Sarlacc, and it's that scene where R2D2 is like, sneaking his way out of the interior of the sail barge to get up onto like the top part of it. I never noticed that you can see Boba Fett's head, like his helmet, turn like towards sort of the view, like towards kind of where R2 like went. I never noticed that.
Oh, that he notices R2 just kind of piss off to go.
He notices R2 piss off, and then like you see, and then like he walks up to the top, and I never noticed that.
That's really
until
cool.
the theater, and I'm like, wait, so that's why Boba was up on the top and like came in. That I was like, what the fuck?
That's really cool. I didn't even notice that my time. Like I said, there are the two scenes that are the most like this is like Jedi adventure stuff. It is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon on the Lucre Hulk at the beginning of Phantom Menace, when they square off with the battle droids, and then it's the sail barge. Just that like pure unadulterated, a Jedi here has saved the day type thing. I've always loved that scene for that reason. Having just finished Heir to the Empire for the first time, I also had another layer of enjoyment for this scene because I didn't know this. Mara Jade in Legends was on Jabba's sail barge for that and was assigned to assassinate Luke and company because the Emperor knew what was going on.
Of course he did.
And I don't know if she was on the sail barge, but basically she was not able to assassinate Luke and complete her mission. Jabba demanded that she stay back at the palace, and like she couldn't reject his orders without blowing her cover. So she was like, okay, I'll go along with it and I'll make it work. And then hears about how even though Luke showed up unarmed, somehow he just killed everybody on the sail barge, or eventually saw it. I don't remember. Somehow she saw what happened, but there's just this funny moment in Heir to the Empire where she goes, how the fuck did you even get your lightsaber? Like, where did your lightsaber come from? And they're with R2. He goes, oh yeah, he shot it out of his head. He had it the whole time. Y'all didn't check. And it's Mara Jade going it's Mara Jade who spends that entire book fantasizing about killing Luke. Go, I was really smart. I was really clever.
He's a better smuggler than Han Solo ever was.
It's never
touche, my guy, touche.
It's never gonna happen. But god damn it, I would love that in another Jedi game where BD does that with Cal's saber. It just never could happen because of BD's size and everything.
I don't know. The second lightsaber is a Shoto.
Oh, dude, if
you could have Cal's first big action scene be him only using the one sword.
And then BD just shoots it out like a stem.
Yeah. Or he puts it in the joint on his back. There's a way you could make that work. But yeah, sail barge, that's a big one for me, absolutely. I'm gonna start talking about a scene that made me cry again. So Connor, you said the Rancor fight, Case and sail barge. Spencer, was there a specific scene that just hit different? Oh, Connor?
Really, it's not really to hit different, but it this scene where Luke and Leia are talking and Luke takes this really, really fucking long time to just tell her we're brother and sister. I always had this realization, but I always forgot about it. That is the most space opera scene in Star Wars. That's one of the most space opera scenes.
Certainly soap opera, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of them being revealed as siblings, in our theater, there was this really funny muted chuckle that happened all across me, Spencer, and Cason's auditorium. Whenever it's Han's I won't get in the way. And Leia's like, it's not like that. He's my brother. And then Han starts to look like really confused. And then like this, like again, muted chuckle started to make its way through the room. Because we're all having like we've all seen the edit, you know, of like Han, like and then she like lays one on him and he's just like he embraces her, and then his eyes get all big again, and he's like, you know, you can hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing in his mind. It was just this really funny, like muted chuckle, you know, of everybody just kind of like, he remembers that you fucking kissed this your brother. You put your tongue down his mouth. Do you remember Leia? Hillshire Farm remembers, you know, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Hillshire Farm's go meats. But
Hillshire Farm.
Hillshire Farm.
Oh my god.
I want a roast beef sandwich. But Spencer, was there a scene that like changed for you seeing it in this setting that just felt that hit different, you know?
It hit much the same, but it hit in the same way afresh and like anew to me. Like even as a kid watching it the first time, I remember just like being so emotionally moved by like the end sequence on Endor, where like the Ewoks are playing their party music, and like you just see not well you okay so there's like a couple layers of like congratulation going on here. There's like the guys on Endor that made it out are like, dude, we made it. The guys in space that made it out are like, we made it. Like, not just we did it, but like we're still here to talk about it, to celebrate. Yeah. But like seeing like Han and Lando come together for like a bro hug, it's like they're celebrating the fact that they did it, like they accomplished the goal. But they're also like, I think they're like, you made it. Like I wasn't sure if I'd see you again, you know? And I love the fact that Wedge specifically is in there too, you know, because if you think about it, Wedge is like more a tried and true poster child of the rebellion than like any of them, except maybe Leia. Like Wedge has been A1 since day one. Like he's been the fighter leader from the Battle of Yavin.
No, yeah, like he has the acumen of, he's like, I defected, and he served in all three major battles of the original trilogy.
Yeah, and so he is like the real OG of the rebellion. And even though like he does get attention, he has gotten his flowers. I don't think he's gotten quite enough attention. He hasn't gotten quite enough flowers. Like Wedge is an incredible character, conceptually, that hasn't been explored all that much. Like we said, we got a little bit from Rebels, you know, breaking him out of the Sky Strike Academy, and he's like a stalwart of the Rebel Alliance throughout. And so like seeing him specifically get to take a part in the celebration, and like Luke has given him a hug, and like Lando and Han, they're all coming together, and it's just like it's this moment of like sadness but hopefulness, where they're like, we made it. Like not only we accomplished our goal, but we lived to tell about it. And like the guys in space weren't sure they'd ever see the Endor crew again, and vice versa. And so like them being able to come back and like run across the airport to each other, like the rom-com, you know, like, and just like they're so excited to see one another and to celebrate together and to rejoice in the fact that they are still alive to tell the tale. They made it out, like they accomplished their goal, and we get to hug at the end of the day. Like even from my earliest rememberings of this movie, like it was a tearjerker, and seeing it on the big screen with like my undivided attention was just like, it was really cool. I always
that reminds me of another scene that like of something that I didn't notice happened until I saw it on the big screen. The statue of Palpatine being brought down on Coruscant. I never noticed it watching Return of the Jedi on like the TV, even when like the very beginning of the first Aftermath book specifically mentions the Palpatine statue being brought down. I thought that was just some like background thing that happened off screen until like I saw it and I'm like, oh, that's where it was.
Yeah, Spencer, I agree with you completely. I kind of gave my answer with the whole Vader no moment, like really affecting me more than it normally does. But that is when the waterworks really, really went crazy for me. Was the Endor celebration. We can debate Yub Nub and Victory Celebration all day.
Victory celebration all day, every day. It
that
fits thematically.
that first set of like call and response trumpets, I could feel it coming. I was that first like I was like, and again, and while like Han and Leia are like kissing and Han's thinking about how Luke has been here before, it kind of brought my mood up, after like weeping as Anakin passes away. So like there's that fun laugh, and then the trumpet sound, and and that is another one, by the way. Anakin's passing, just that conversation, like I would I was like coming down like off of the no moment and him killing the Emperor, but that let me look on you with my own eyes. Again, that's a moment that always deeply affects me. But in the theater, it was different.
Yeah, it really hit me too.
It really deeply affected me. And, you were right about me. Tell your sister you were right. And he's gone. He becomes one with the Force. And then again, I calm down for Han and Leia and their silly moment and Wicket's being adorable. And then there's a funeral pyre that like was uplifting, but I didn't start crying yet. But I knew I was going to make it to the credits without it. And then, you're starting to see like everybody celebrating on Endor, and then you cut to the other planets. And that's the moment where I just start to become like emotional, not crying, but there's just like, we as these nerds who know all about the canon and all of that, we know how much work there is still to be done. We know that this war will go on for one more year. And that after that, the Imperial remnant will still be a problem, just nowhere near to even a tenth of the scale that the Galactic Empire was. But watching, everybody in Cloud City, everybody on Tatooine, it's beautiful. And then you get to those prequel planets, that you see Naboo, and I'm pretty sure the Gungan going, "We the free!" Was a Blu-ray edition in 2011. George just twisting the knife to make sure everybody knows I'm going to keep doubling down on the Gungans. Go fuck yourself.
I'll have to rewatch the 1997
As he
special
should.
editions now.
Yeah, I would love. I want to
I
know at
don't
what
remember.
point. I want to know at what point George added Naboo and Coruscant, and because I don't know like the chronology of when stuff was added. I want to know when Naboo and Coruscant were added, and I want to know when Wisa Free was added, because I never heard Wisa Free as a kid, but I know we saw Naboo. So, whoever can answer that question, feel free in the comments. But it's when they come back and like the statue falling, Connor. And it's when they come back and they're all hugging and loving on each other. And it's just like, Star Wars is hokey. Star Wars is a fairy tale. Star Wars is about the friends you made along the way. It's about loving people so much that you're willing to risk your life for them, and that we can all be better, and just, it's never not going to make me cry, at least a little bit. This is the scene I was talking about, that like, I'm behind the bar with, 18 people annoying the piss out of me. I look up and I see everybody hugging at the Treetop Village, and I see the ghosts arrive. I may not be fully invested in that moment. There's still one thug tear, I can't not cry during that scene. So in a movie theater, I'm holding on to Spencer, I'm holding on to Taylor. music hits you, and Anakin shows up before Luke alongside Yoda and Obi-Wan, and I'm just sobbing again. Just again, I wish I wasn't like this, but I am. It's just so beautiful and so uplifting, and it's everything that Star Wars is. Even the stories that aren't hopeful at their core, or stories that aren't centered on hope. I use this term a lot, that like when it comes to Andor and its relationship with hope, it paints in the negative space. And what I mean by that is, as bleak and as desperate as everything feels in Andor, we as the audience know this ends with everybody hugging on Endor. And we know that Endor ends with everybody hugging on Agent Kloss. That because the acts of every brave individual who is prepared to lay down their life in the name of protecting the galaxy and the people they love in it, the ultimate evil will be defeated not once but twice. Like, it will never not affect me. And as the Anakin Skywalker fanboy who loves his relationship with Obi-Wan, every single time I see that scene and I see them reunited, it undoes me. The rise and fall of Darth Vader, a very fun, like, first person, like, fictional, like, it's like a fictional biography. It's like a fictional autobiography that's like all from Vader's perspective. It's a Legends book. It was like not like a young reader's novel, but like a middle grade, like young adult type region. It's like the companion book to the Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I know a lot of people have read. There's a scene at the end of the Vader one from Anakin's perspective when he's becoming one with the Force, and he was starting to fade away and kind of join the collective unconscious that is the cosmic force. And at that moment, Obi-Wan pulls him back. And before Obi-Wan can say anything to Anakin, again, this is all ethereal within the Force, Anakin starts apologizing to Obi-Wan. And starts immediately, they're all energy, so he doesn't have knees to fall to. But like basically falls to his knees, apologizing to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan just simply goes, "I know, and it's okay. You did the right thing, and I'm proud of you." And I can't wait for From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, because we're going to get Mike Chen, who wrote the incredible Star Wars Brotherhood, which is all about Obi-Wan and Anakin, is going to be writing the story of Anakin joining the Force. And I am not physically ready for a new canon version of Obi-Wan welcoming Anakin into Force heaven with open arms. I'm getting choked up.
Crying.
I'm crying. I was trying to keep it together. That needs to be clipped out. He's crying. Then anyway, I love Star Wars. Yeah. This movie's fucking awesome. And it's incredibly underrated. We talked about this on the Bombad cast. I feel like Return of the Jedi accounts for so much of the DNA of Star Wars, and it doesn't get its flowers for it. I feel like so much of Star Wars, as it is reinterpolated in the modern era, takes cues from Jedi more than it does from any other movie in the OT. And like there are exceptions, Andor is very much like the not mystical parts of Empire in many ways, stuff like that. Obi-Wan Kenobi feels like a true synthesis of A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith. But like there is something that is so Return of the Jedi, I think, is the movie that fully proves the case for Star Wars being a fairy tale fantasy story more than it is science fiction. In terms of its tone, in terms of its presentation, in the way that it's shot. one of the things we were talking about, Scotty pulled up a lot of really cool quotes from George talking about how he chose Richard Marquand because he did fantasy, because he understood like the visual language of fantasy better than he did, and wanted Marquand's eyes to help tell this story. It's just everything I love about Star Wars is in this movie. In the same way that, I think that's why my top three are just like that. My top three favorite Star Wars movies, I think, are very, for me, emblematic of like what I want out of my Star Wars, or what I come to Star Wars for. And it is that high adventure, friends we made along the way, space fantasy, epic that is steeped in history, in mythology, in philosophy, that just always will speak to me. But I've been rambling for a minute because I love the Return of the Jedi. Any other thoughts before we put a bow on this guy?
I don't think so. I think
All
that's
right.
everything for me, at least.
Well,
Return of the Jedi is fucking dope.
Return of the Jedi is dope. It gets 5 running dopes for me. Anyway, Connor, where can all of people find you, bud?
They can find me on Twitter at DepaBanana down there. Instagram, ConmanJFO. I also co-host over at For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I also co-write questions and co-host over at Star Wars in the Galaxy Epic Confrontations. You can find all of the matches over on the Star Wars in a Galaxy podcast YouTube channel. And you can find me over at sweditor.ig.com/fiction. I help write and craft Star Wars fan stories. I don't have any published yet. I have a few in the works. 2 of which are going to need pretty big changes because Jedi Survivor. So, yeah, that's
Back
fun.
to the drawing board.
And not really, actually. It's just one thing happened in Survivor that is going to make one of my stories more therapeutic than it already was.
I'm excited to see what that is. Speaking of, little programming note, Connor and I are basically waiting on friend of the show, Brooke, a.k.a. B Dazzler, to finish the game. And we're going to have her on to review it.
Okay, good, because I still need to, I'm still processing
Fingers
crossed.
Fingers crossed it's going to be in the next week or two, ideally next week. But, I'm not going to rush Brooke through the story. She is just as big a Cal Kestis and Star Wars Jedi fan as Connor and I. So I've been watching her live streams. It's B_Dazzler. Go watch what she's doing. She's been going live on Twitch and on TikTok these past few days. And I think she's re-uploading her playthroughs on YouTube as well. So go check out what Brooke is doing. She's wonderful people, and she will be on to talk about Jedi Survivor when she finishes up the campaign. Kaysen, where?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Breezy. Only other thing I do aside from this is manage a deathcore band if you like super, super heavy metal. Name is Belvebeth. The link for their stuff is in both of my bios.
Hell yeah. Every time you say it, I'm not going to lie to you, it doesn't sound right. Because I've been thinking, I've been reading it as Beelzebooth the whole time.
Yeah, and you see, that's how a lot of people think that, but it's Belvebeth. That's how it's
now, I say that. I'm also the same guy who has to explain to people that the company's called Roosevelt's and not Results. So I totally get it. I totally get it. Kevin Smith, the man, the myth, the legend, who got his own Roosevelt's collection, had to be told by the owner it is Roosevelt's, not Results.
That's funny.
I think it's very funny. Spencer, you don't have any social media to plug, so tell everybody about the Versus series.
Yeah, we're having a Versus series. Check it out. I can't remember who's up. Is it No, I can't remember. You put me on the spot, man. You put
I
me
thought
on
you were
the
going to do your
spot.
normal pitch.
Yeah, I can't remember who our matchup is, but if you like
It's Vader and
Star Wars,
Shakti.
Vader and Shakti, thank you. If you
Vader
like
and
Star Wars
who?
content,
Shakti.
Oh, I thought there was a different name said for a second.
Who'd you think I said?
no, just let's move past it.
Oh!
No.
Praise be to Shakti.
No.
I think it's so funny.
No.
Charlie Ashby did that for free. On a whim.
free.
For
Imagine
free.
what he could do if you paid him.
I do know he made the thumbnail for the goddamn rematch with Scotty. I know. Yeah, Charlie's good. That's why we paid him to do that. And then we went, hey, Shaq T, and Charlie went, oi, let me cook, mate, and then did that. I hope he doesn't watch this and hears that horrible British accent. Anyway,
Versus Series is a good time. Check it out at the $5 tier on Patreon every single month. It's great.
Yes.
We'll
You
be
guys
doing
can find
Shock. The woman. No, not. No.
To our audio listeners, do yourself a favor and pull up the video version. It will be worth your time.
Timestamp approximately
save
an hour and
yourself.
25 minutes.
Run as fast as you can. Do not open that internet browser.
Don't. I mean, if you're listening to this like on the road and you're like, "Oh, I'm at a red light, I'll pull it up." Don't pull it up while you're driving.
Yeah, don't do that.
I don't want to like give somebody a jump scare and cause like a 30 card pile up because of Shaq D. But you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast, and on YouTube. And you can check out our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our Patreon, Spencer already said, $5 tier gets you access to our 30-episode back catalog of the Star Wars Versus series we do. This past month of April was Reva versus Kanan. March was Exar Kun versus Mace Windu. February was Qui-Gon Jinn versus Ahsoka Tano. And January was Lord Starkiller versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. All banger episodes, if I do say so myself. We're getting to some really fun, nitty-gritty stuff this season. I hope you join us at the $5 tier. Help support your favorite nerds.
Especially with Survivor. That probably gave you a gold mine of stuff.
Well, let me tell you this. I am already reconsidering the matchup I want to do with Cal this season. Cal, like Vader, became one of those characters I want to cover every season. And currently, he is pitted against Dark Disciple era Asajj Ventress. I don't think that's a fair fucking fight anymore. I don't. Asajj Ventress has that dog in her. I've said it. Now I got to play the clip.
Had that dog at 12.
That's not a fair fight anymore. I got a lot of Clone Wars to keep rewatching with Taylor, but I don't think I can, in good conscience, let that matchup happen. I think it might be too lopsided at this point. I think Cal Kestis with a Swiss Army saber, a blaster, an insane like capacity with the Force that he gains over the 5 years between Fallen Order and Survivor. I don't think like redeemed Ventress is enough there. I think we might need to find a new enemy for him, and I have to make a new thumbnail and start writing different notes because I do not think Ventress is the move anymore. I don't think it's a fair fight. That's also not for like several months. But you will be seeing Survivor era Cal this season. But
as well
anyway,
as probably most of the other bosses in that game.
Oh, down the road. Oh, Dagon. I said Connor took a sabbatical from the Goon Squad chat, so he didn't see this. After the second Dagon fight, I was in that chat. I was like, I want everybody to know he's going to be in next season's Versus series. A man with one arm using a saber staff. My God.
I have here's a suggestion for you. Dagon versus Malicos.
That's That's a good matchup. I like it.
I just thought of it.
I wanted to go in a really weird Force direction with it that I cannot elaborate on because the game just came out and Kaysen hasn't played it yet.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Nor has Spencer, but like the gaming stuff isn't.
But also,
Just
I feel like
for
you're
him.
also going to have a lot of fun with Ravis, Jared.
I try to keep it to Force sensitive, so I don't know if I'll end up using Ravis.
Okay.
But Dagon is absolutely going to be used in the first series.
Ravis would be perfect.
We'll see. We'll see what we can do with it. But anyway, like I said, there's a lot there for you guys to enjoy. Lots of matchups, lots of really cool thematic ones, battles across versions of canon even. So I implore you to go check that out at the $5 tier at you can go to our website, click the link there, or go to patreon.com/Nerd Academy Podcast. Speaking of those patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd. And to Paco, or as he's going by currently on our Patreon, Trivia King Scotty J. Rowe.
That still scares me.
Paul Stanley Scotty is so
It was
terrifying.
Bombay.
Bad.
That man is in my nightmares.
There is a
Real Paul
really
Stanley.
Paul Stanley Scotty is like eldritch horror type being.
there is
I need Paul Stanley Scotty versus Cookie Cop now. Special episode of the Versus series.
Yeah, it's funny you mention it. You know, I kept telling everybody Cookie Cop is alive, Cookie Cop is alive. And then I cleaned in this area because Taylor and I are going to start turning this room back into like a blue walled studio for everybody. And I moved Cookie Cop from the table and forgot to put him back. So there's like 2 episodes in a row that Cookie Cop isn't here for. And
Canon.
Somehow.
somehow Cookie Cop has disappeared. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everybody's having a great Star Wars day. We are honored that you have joined us. And may the 4th be with you.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!
And praise be to Shaq T.